I'm going to walk through the pieces in your portfolio and just give you my reactions and reflections on the where your strengths are, and also what works towards your goal of getting into dynamic simulation field and effects in general. Um, I think we have this later as a video as we do that and that and that. Yeah, all of these we have as videos, so I'll just go straight to the video section. This one I don't think is relevant for portfolio. This one, I don't think. Yeah, there's that's something you'd want to keep on a portfolio for what you're aiming at. And this one, yeah, the quality isn't great, and it's not really playing towards your strengths or your focus. So again, not something I would include. I think um, I think this is like a class exercise where you just add the texture and lighting, and it's okay. I think it's maybe not portfolio worthy. And here is where we're getting into stuff that's a little more interesting. I think that this has some nice things going on. I think one thing to think about a lot with dynamics is a sense of the way things behave at certain scales. And the water that would be inside of a bottle wouldn't move the way, a bottle of that size wouldn't move the way this water is moving. That's water, on a larger scale, um, much larger than what would fit in a bottle. Now, you might say that, oh, well, this is a sort of fantasy thing where the water's acting like it would on a much larger scale in a bottle. But I think that's, to the person who's looking at it, that's, asking a lot of the viewer. I also think it'd be good if the glass breaking was justified by something, because it seems to just break by itself. And then the other thing I would say on this piece is that I think that if a bottle like this broke, it wouldn't just make a nice sort of hole there. I think there'd be a lot more cracks going off. I think the shards themselves kind of have a decent look, although there's some rendering issues, with a lot of flickering going on. Uh, and maybe that's just the cast shadow or caustics or something coming from the water, but either way, it's a little bit distracting. And we're seeing that in the reflection of the glass, that kind of flickering. So I think you'd want to deal with that. And like there's little wandering pieces like that here, and I think some of these are just sort of rolling around for too long. So I think it's sort of the right idea of a piece that you'd want to include, but I think it needs to be improved. This one is an example of one where it's not happening within any context. So it sort of looks like kind of playing around with Houdini. And not to say that you shouldn't play around with Houdini. I think you should. I think that's great. But I think when I watch this, I'm like, what is this supposed to be? What are we looking at? What was he trying to achieve? And I think it's not really showing that. This one I liked actually a lot. Um, I think the rendering's nice with the kind of the way the glass is reacting to the light. Whoops. And yeah, the kind of little fireworks things look good. I think it's a nice little piece. Um, yeah, again, not a bad drawing, but probably doesn't apply. And I didn't really understand the context of this. It looks like sort of the planning of a short film or something. So I think that if you had this film, that might be interesting, but this doesn't belong, I think, as an image on your demo reel portfolio. I thought this one is okay. Um, I like the way the sort of dust things fall and land there. I thought that was nice, and um, man, there's some decent rendering things going on here. So um, I think that the rendering could be cleaner. It's a little grainy, but generally, I thought that was an interesting piece. This one, it's okay. It's got sort of that some sort of magical effect going on. Um, but again, it's a little bit it's not fitting within a context. I always think it's good if you have something to fit within a context. By that I mean, maybe there's a background that integrates with, or we're seeing something on the other side of the portal, so we understand it's a portal, or whatever it is. It's when it's just a standalone thing, much like that earlier red one. It's like, oh, he's sort of playing around with Houdini, but what exactly was the goal? Um, and then same with this. Again, yeah, it's just abstract sort of movement. So generally moving forward, what I would encourage you to do, especially if you want to work in visual effects, is to try to create some photorealistic effects and just keep things small and keep things simple. It doesn't have to be on a grand scale. Like, it doesn't have to be a jet airplane crashing into a mountainside. You know what I mean? It could be, um, you know, a hammer hitting some drywall, and cracking it and some dust coming out and a couple pieces crumbling off. You can do things on a small scale, and if they look photorealistic, that's what people want to see. And I think the important thing is to use reference, whether you're recording the reference yourself or finding it, but use reference, keep it small, keep it simple, but make it photorealistic and put it in a context and really think about scale, how a hammer hitting a piece of drywall, the pieces are going to react much differently in the way they move than a giant wrecking ball hitting the side of a building. It's like understanding the differences of scale and timing based on the scale of things. But yeah, put it in a context, keep it small and simple so you can focus on the quality and the realism and use a lot of reference. That would be my suggestion moving forward.